When the vibrant hum of a billion souls was abruptly silenced, the galaxy learned a terrifying truth. We are but fleeting tenants upon these cursed stars. From beneath the shattered bedrock of our greatest cities, a primordial coldness clawed its way upward, completely extinguishing the sacred warmth of the blessed Emperor. Monolithic structures of impossible geometry pierced the trembling crust. They were monuments of an age before humanity even possessed the fragile spark of true consciousness. An obsidian pyramid ascended into the choking atmosphere, defying every natural law of our universe. Its immense gravity crushed the surrounding structures into mere dust. The monolithic gates slid open with a deafening metallic groan. From that abyssal void, a legion of nightmares began their slow, relentless march into reality. Countless metallic phalanxes stepped forward in perfect, soulless unison. Their skeletal frames reflected the dying light of a world about to be completely erased from history. Verdant lightning arced through the suffocating smog, effortlessly turning monumental spires into drifting ash. No alarm could scream loudly enough to match this sudden devastation. Even the mighty Adeptus Astartes found themselves paralyzed before this ancient perfection. Their blessed ceramite armor offered no salvation against the relentless emerald storms approaching. These strange alien weapons did not merely destroy flesh and stone. They systematically unraveled matter at the atomic level, leaving absolutely nothing behind but silence. Entire districts vanished in blinding flashes of sickly green energy. The defenders were swiftly granted the Emperor's peace, their defiance melting into the uncaring wind. Amidst the swirling ashes, a singular entity emerged from the shadows. His presence alone commanded the chaotic battlefield to kneel in absolute, unwavering submission immediately. He moved with the grace of a god and the terrifying inevitability of entropy itself. This was no mere machine, but a sovereign of despair. The immortal tyrant gazed upon our ruined bastion without a shred of triumph. In his posture, there resided only the immense gravity of infinite sorrow. He watched the fragile achievements of humanity crumble to ashes, recognizing the fleeting arrogance of species who dared to claim ownership over the eternal galaxy. This was Szarekh, the supreme monarch who had slumbered for 60 million years. Now, the Silent King has returned to reclaim his tragically fractured dominion. I have unearthed these forbidden truths from the deepest vaults of the Inquisition. These ancient records whisper of a threat far older than chaos itself. Listen closely, my faithful acolytes, for the knowledge contained within these decaying vellum scrolls carries the severe penalty of being entirely expunged from all records. Before Terra even saw its first reign, an empire of iron had already chained the stars. They traded their mortal souls for absolute, eternal supremacy. Their grand history is etched not in fleeting memories, but in the indestructible coldness of living metal, buried beneath the very planets we blindly inhabit. To understand the doom descending upon our Imperium, we must delve into the grim genesis of the Necrontyr, a fragile race cursed by celestial radiation. They were birthed upon a world bathed in the relentless malice of a dying star. Their brief existences were entirely consumed by sickness and physical despair. To these wretched beings, the grave was not a distant horizon, but a constant companion. Thus, they built vast necropolises to house their inevitable dead. In their desperate search for salvation, the Necrontyr forged a glorious empire across the void. Yet their fading flesh remained chained to a tragic destiny. It was then that the supreme ruler, Szarekh the Silent King, sought a terrifying cure. He forged alliances with primordial entities of pure, uncaring energy. These were the kitten, ancient star gods who promised the gift of ultimate immortality. They offered a glorious transcendence that masked a profoundly ruinous deception. The horrific pact of biotransference was sealed in the blazing green infernos. Billions willingly marched into the colossal furnaces, shedding their frail organic shells entirely. What emerged from those fires was no longer mortal flesh. The tragic race was entirely consumed, their consciousness digitized into cold, unyielding prisons of necrodermis. Szarekh watched his fragile subjects become an infinite phalanx of silent automatons. He had gained the flawless kingdom, but lost the soul of his people. They were forged into a terrifying weapon of galactic conquest. The kitten feasted upon their discarded life essence, growing bloated on the harvest of despair. Armed with weapons that dissolved matter into screaming atoms, the newly minted Necrons waged a devastating campaign of expansion against the ancient rulers of space. Led by mighty pharaohs like Imhotep, the Stormlord, they systematically cleansed countless worlds. Entire civilizations were erased to appease the insatiable hunger of star deities. The sickening crackle of Gauss flares became the only song echoing across conquered star systems. There was no mercy offered, only cold, calculated, mechanical silence. Yet, as the cosmic slaughter reached its apex, the Silent King recognized the monstrous chains binding him. The star gods were not saviors, but parasites, his immortal mind shattered under the heavy weight of an eternal regret. He had preserved his race, but damned them to an existence devoid of feeling. In supreme secrecy, he commanded his mechanical legions to turn their terrifying arsenals against the arrogant deities. The great betrayers would finally become the prey. The cosmos itself trembled as weapons of impossible magnitude shattered the cosmic deities into fragmented shards. The Necrons decisively reclaimed the sovereignty of their destiny. Mighty entities were reduced to chained batteries by the brilliant minds of cryptechs like Illuminor Siras. The Empire of Iron was completely victorious and masterless, but the galaxy was left barren, ravaged by the titanic conflict. Seeing the ruin, the Sovereign made a choice that defied all logic and reason. He ordered his timeless legions to construct subterranean vaults of unyielding stone. They would sleep beneath the bedrock, waiting for the galaxy to heal itself. Severing his command protocols, Szarekh banished himself into the cold void of intergalactic space. His penitent exile marked the absolute end of their glorious era. For eons uncounted, they remained entombed beneath the crust of thousands of worlds. The Great Sleep was managed by flawless, self-repairing master programs. Endless swarms of mechanical scarabs meticulously maintained the sprawling stasis crypts. They harvested ambient radiation to perpetually fuel the dormant stasis chambers without fail. The wondrous necrodermis possessed a terrifying ability to heal itself. Fractured armor plates mended seamlessly, ensuring the warriors would never succumb to simple decay. Brilliant cryptiques like Illuminor Siras monitored the grand cosmic clockwork. They calculated stellar drifts to prepare for the inevitable hour of their predestined awakening. Their dimensional engines harnessed the trapped power of captive star fragments. This infinite energy grid silently sustained the slumbering phalanxes through the darkest millennia. Vast armories of Gauss flares rested in magnetic suspension. These atomic destabilizers required no conventional ammunition, relying entirely upon localized spatial disruption to function. I have translated the complex algorithmic hymns that dictated their hibernation. They were not dead, my faithful acolytes, merely waiting for the primitive races to multiply. Humanity blindly expanded across the stars, entirely ignorant of the sleeping leviathans beneath our very boots. We built glorious cathedrals upon their silent, ticking graves. The tectonic shifts and aggressive mining operations of our Adeptus Mechanicus inevitably disturbed these dormant nodes. The absolute silence was finally broken by foolish curiosity. A singular dimensional breach triggered the catastrophic cascade of automated revivals. The Supreme Master Programs detected our trespassing and initiated the grand protocols of systematic reclamation. Our brave Adeptus Astartes investigated the sudden loss of planetary communications. They found only an eerie luminescence pulsating from the deepest core of the world. Energy conduits flared to sudden life, routing stellar power into billions of deactivated chassis. The living metal eagerly absorbed the charge, shifting perfectly into combat readiness. Endless phalanxes materialized from the gloom, marching with synchronized mechanical precision. Their tactical logic engines immediately identified all organic life forms as primary targets for purgation. The localized command nodes reconnected, forming a flawless neural network of absolute destruction. Every metallic soldier moved as a singular, unified extension of an overarching will. Monstrous canoptic constructs unfolded their bladed limbs, eager to cleanse their sanctums. These horrific guardians projected null fields that completely suppressed our blessed technological prayers and auspex scanners. The very crust of the planet fractured under the immense pressure of their subterranean ascent. Monumental monoliths levitated upward, defying gravity through arcane repulsor technologies. The mighty warriors of the Imperium stood their ground against the floating fortresses, yet their explosive bolter rounds merely deflected off the incredibly resilient quantum shielding. Whenever a skeletal automaton was struck down, their unnatural reanimation protocols simply reassembled the shattered pieces. It was a terrifying war of attrition against an undying enemy. I have studied the tragic after-action reports from these initial skirmishes. The casualty rates among our elite forces were mathematically impossible to sustain for very long. But these isolated awakenings were merely the tremors preceding a galactic earthquake. The Silent King had finally returned from the void to unify his scattered dynasties. For millennia, the glorious Imperium expanded unopposed across the celestial sphere. We were arrogant, utterly blind to the ancient doom sleeping silently beneath our feet. Now the silent dynastic lords have risen to reclaim their violently usurped properties. Our grand planetary conquests mean absolutely nothing to these undying mechanical sovereigns. These faded vellum scrolls hold the darkest truth of our imminent ruin. The Silent King seeks to reverse the tragic biotransference that damned his people. To achieve this impossible biological restoration, Szarekh requires an infinite harvest of organic vessels. He views humanity merely as a vast resource waiting for collection. His mechanical calculations are entirely devoid of mercy or hesitation. He will systematically purge the stars until his terrifying vision of biological rebirth is realized. Suddenly, the crimson glow of absolute planetary emergencies washed over our orbital defense stations. An unprecedented and merciless storm of war crashed upon us. Panic consumed the trembling populaces of our greatest hive cities completely. Deafening claxons wailed as emerald lightning viciously tore through our holiest cathedral spires above. Our sacred cogitators overloaded, desperately struggling to process the sheer scale of the spatial anomalies. Entire Imperial fleets were simply erased from localized tracking augers. Upon the ash-choked battlefields, defensive lines shattered under an overwhelming mechanical tide. The ground itself rebelled as hidden subterranean crypts violently expelled their metallic legions. Commanders like Pharaon Imhotep masterfully orchestrated the sudden dismantling of our fortified strongholds. His tactical brilliance left the valiant Imperial defenders perpetually outmaneuvered and completely broken. Blinding beams from their arcane Gauss flares systematically vaporized massive barricades of reinforced rockcrete. They advanced with a synchronized, chilling silence that thoroughly paralyzed brave men. Even the legendary Adeptus Astartes found themselves hopelessly encircled by an undying enemy. Their explosive retaliations barely slowed the relentless, mathematically perfect advance of cold iron. Our mightiest champions fought with supreme valor, delivering thunderous justice upon the encroaching darkness. Yet, every fallen automaton effortlessly knitted its shattered metallic chassis back together. This was not a conventional war of territorial conquest or holy zeal. It was a cold, methodical purgation designed to completely cleanse the galaxy of organics. The vile Illuminor Ceres deployed horrific algorithmic plagues that effortlessly bypassed our sacred machine spirits. Our technological sanctuaries were rapidly corrupted into silent tombs of despair. High above the burning ruins, the Sovereign watched with completely unreadable metallic eyes. He guided the cosmic devastation with the flawless, terrifying precision of an architect. The monolithic dais of dominion projected an oppressive field of absolute temporal distortion. It completely smothered the final prayers of entire regiments swallowed by green fire. They even unleashed chained shards of their former deities upon the crumbling front lines. These imprisoned anomalies of pure cosmic wrath aggressively manipulated gravity to crush bastions. My faithful acolytes. The records detailing these specific engagements are deeply stained with sorrow. We faced an adversary entirely immune to any mortal hesitation or doubt. Our holy empire was violently forced onto the absolute defensive edge. The terrifying awakening of the Silent Dynasty threatened to permanently extinguish our precious burning light. Upon the shattered plains, the Adeptus Astartes organized a desperate counteroffensive. Drop pods rained from the suffocating sky like meteors of righteous, burning vengeance. Captains clad in heavily scarred ceramite roared litanies of fury. They charged headlong into the green storm, determined to break the uncaring mechanical tide entirely. But the silent legions merely adjusted their firing lines with terrifying mathematical synchronization. Searing emerald beams instantly vaporized the foremost Imperial vehicles into glowing ash. Pharaon Imhotep calmly orchestrated this slaughter from a levitating command barge. He effortlessly anticipated every tactical maneuver, sealing our bravest warriors within inescapable energy traps. With a dismissive gesture of his crackling gauntlet, he unleashed the heavy destroyers. These monstrous amalgamations of metal hovered forward, their heavy cannons humming dangerously. The captain raised his storm shield just as a concussive blast struck. The impact threw his massive frame backward, cracking the blessed ancient armor severely. From the swirling dust, a chained kitten shard erupted. Its blinding, unnatural light warped the battlefield's gravity, effortlessly tossing heavy tanks into the darkened atmosphere. The captive star god channeled its localized wrath, reducing a fortified bunker to molten slag in mere seconds. No mortal prayer could stop its rampage. Automated pick recorders captured the horrific devastation in chilling clarity. The Imperial lines were rapidly collapsing under the weight of this impossible, ancient cosmic power. Far above the brutal engagement, the Silent King observed the rapid purgation of our forces. His absolute stillness reflected an oceanic depth of immortal sorrow. He did not revel in the systemic dismantling of our sacred armies. This grand destruction was merely a necessary calculation for his ultimate, grim design. The glowing geometric nodes upon his dais pulsated with a chilling resonance. Each flash of light synchronized perfectly with the systematic erasure of Imperial lives. As the defensive perimeters completely shattered, the merciless metallic phalanxes advanced into the lower habitation levels. A deafening silence rapidly replaced the screams of panic. Rows of skeletal automatons methodically swept through the ruined corridors. Their glowing green ocular sensors registered organic heat signatures solely for immediate, cold atomic dispersal. The crackle of discharging Gauss weaponry echoed continuously through the dark tunnels. Ash rained down from the ceiling as entire loyalist squads were swiftly silenced. Illuminor Ceres descended upon the freshly cleansed sectors with his horrific harvesting machines. His mechanical limbs eagerly extracted raw biological data from the fallen populace. He cataloged the organic complexity of humanity with a horrifying clinical detachment. To the spider-like cryptech, we were nothing more than mere ingredients for salvation. Containers of distilled vital essence were carefully loaded onto hovering transport barges. This grim harvest would fuel the Silent King's unimaginable plan for biological restoration. In the suffocating gloom of my sanctum, I weep for those lost souls. Their silent sacrifices were entirely expunged from all official inquisitorial mission records. The terrifying majesty of the Iron Dynasty had broken our unyielding spirit completely. Yet the darkest mysteries of their ancient awakening still remain largely unanswered. Across the blasted plains of this dying world, our glorious planetary defense forces lay completely silent. Their shattered armor served as grim monuments to this absolute devastation. Even the mighty Adeptus Astartes were finally broken. The relentless metallic phalanxes marched over their unmoving ceramite bodies without a single ounce of hesitation or mercy. Our sacred weapons burned softly in the ash-choked wind. The loyalist defenders were granted the Emperor's peace, entirely expunged from the physical realm forever. Colossal, monolithic harvesters levitated above the ruined metropolises. They began silently extracting the vital essence of billions to fuel an unimaginable, terrifying cosmic mechanism. Pharaon Imhotep observed the methodical collection of planetary resources. To these immortal conquerors, humanity was merely a temporary infestation upon their rightful, ancient dynastic worlds. Vast containment fields hummed steadily with stolen organic energy. The horrific cost of our sudden defeat was measured strictly in the chilling currency of harvested life. Entire hive cities were meticulously erased from the continental crust. Not a single stone remained to commemorate the trillions of souls who once thrived there, peacefully. The final pockets of resistance were systematically cleansed. The green storms dissolved their hiding places, leaving only darkened liquid pooling upon the cold, unfeeling bedrock. Their humming Gauss flares finally powered down completely. The ruthless planetary pacification was achieved, ushering in an era of absolute, terrifying mechanical silence across the globe. Yet, amidst this overwhelming victory, a profound anomaly manifested. The sky above the dais of dominion twisted unnaturally, violating every known law of imperial physics entirely. The silent king gazed upward as the stellar fabric violently tore open. A localized temporal rift materialized, actively defying the absolute mathematical perfection of his ancient dynasty. My hidden cogitators screamed in relentless binary terror. A phenomenon entirely alien to both warp and materium had violently intruded upon the desolate, silenced battlefield. A rogue shard of a forgotten star deity broke its eternal chains. Its blinding cosmic luminescence threatened to unravel the very foundation of reality itself. Illuminor Ceres retreated as his flawless harvesting machines suddenly failed. The unnatural stellar radiation effortlessly bypassed their quantum shielding, severely corrupting their ancient logic engines. Countless metallic phalanxes halted their synchronized march abruptly. Their glowing emerald oculars flickered wildly before fading into an unexpected, completely paralyzed darkness upon the ruined plains. The rogue entity unleashed a wave of paradoxical energy. Indestructible living metal began mutating into bizarre, branching structures of pure, twisting cosmic light and chaotic shadows. Even the Supreme Sovereign struggled against the immense gravitational distortion. His levitating dais plummeted toward the fractured bedrock, suddenly stripped of its absolute spatial authority. Abandoned imperial weapons inexplicably sparked back to chaotic life. The fallen power's swords crackled with untamed lightning, heavily resonating with the massive stellar anomaly above. The dead world became an apocalyptic canvas of warring impossibilities. The terrifying Iron Dynasty now faced an unpredictable cosmic horror they could not mathematically control anymore. I watched through distant augurs as logic itself died upon that cursed world. We, my faithful acolytes, are trapped between two incomprehensible forces of ultimate destruction. The rogue star deity unleashed a devastating surge of pure, unfiltered cosmic malice. It consumed imperial ruins and undying machines alike in a horrifying, silent singularity. Szarekh refused to surrender his sovereign domain. He channeled the entire planetary grid, forging massive emerald chains to forcefully bind the raging cosmic anomaly once again. Monolithic structures amplified his chilling command. They relentlessly bombarded the fractured entity with temporal suppression fields, violently compressing its unnatural light back into a hardened prison. The catastrophic rebellion was finally quelled. Yet the brutal suppression left permanent, terrible scars upon the already ruined continental plates of that tragic, silent world. Illuminor Ceres immediately deployed countless mechanical scarabs to repair the catastrophic damage. The tireless swarms labored to rebuild the shattered legions from the smoking, irradiated ash. The silent king surveyed his fractured, undying army. His flawless metallic visage betrayed absolutely no emotion, yet an unfathomable gravity of ancient sorrow weighed heavily there. Their grim harvest was seemingly complete. Colossal harvest ships slowly ascended through the toxic atmosphere, carrying the stolen vital essence of billions into the uncaring void. The remaining mechanical phalanxes systematically marched back into their subterranean crypts. The massive obsidian gates silently closed behind them, heavily sealing away the terrifying ancient dynasty. They left behind a thoroughly purged world. Our glorious imperial banners were completely swallowed by the cold, irradiated dust of a monumentally tragic and decisive defeat. The once vibrant planet was reduced to a barren, silent tomb. It now serves as a horrifying warning to all who dare explore these cursed, forbidden stars. I have thoroughly analyzed every forbidden after-action report, my faithful acolytes. The horrifying truth remains that we cannot conventionally defeat a fundamentally immortal, mechanical enemy. Our blessed bolt shells and roaring plasma engines are ultimately insufficient. We are fighting a desperate war of attrition against an adversary that simply never decays. The supreme sovereign of the Iron Dynasty has officially returned from the galactic void. His devastating awakening threatens to permanently silence our holy, burning imperial light. Szarekh desires to harvest our vast biological essence to reverse his people's tragic damnation. We are merely unconsenting vessels in his grand, terrifying cosmic restoration scheme. This chilling revelation is a secret fiercely guarded by the Holy Inquisition. To whisper it aloud is to invite a swift, merciless purgation from existence completely. Yet you must understand the immense gravity of our current twilight. The ancient leviathans are stirring beneath thousands of seemingly peaceful imperial worlds right now. They sleep beneath our sprawling hive cities and sacred cathedral worlds. When they inevitably rise, the devastating green storms will wash away our arrogant, fragile monuments. We must prepare our shattered souls for the eternal darkness approaching. The grim silence of the ancient tomb worlds will soon consume the roaring, chaotic galaxy. Remember these forbidden truths well, for knowledge is our final shielding. The age of unyielding iron has finally returned to mercilessly reclaim its stolen stars. May the divine master of mankind protect our trembling, vulnerable spirits from this cold inevitability. Let these dark records remain sealed until the absolute end comes. The terrifying return of Szarekh, the Silent King, is not merely a myth, my faithful acolytes. It is the absolute harbinger of our inevitable extinction. We foolishly believed ourselves the supreme masters of this galaxy. We were nothing more than brief, flickering sparks dancing upon a slumbering monolith of iron. Countless tomb worlds are actively awakening beneath our sacred, heavily populated sectors. Their cold logic engines are calculating the absolute optimal moment to strike us. The horrific biotransference cannot be undone without a monumental harvest of our living essence. We are fundamentally the raw materials for their terrifying, unholy salvation. He watches us from the shadows with immortal, calculating eyes. The sovereign of despair bears no hatred, only a chilling, mechanical necessity to consume entirely. When the green lightning finally descends upon your humble worlds, do not beg for mercy. The unyielding living metal understands absolutely nothing of human compassion. Hold fast to your bolters and your unwavering faith. The chaotic twilight of humanity's golden era is rapidly accelerating toward its darkest, most violent conclusion. We must stand fiercely united against the encroaching metallic tide. The silence of the ancient graves must be answered with the roaring defiance of mankind. I consign these forbidden truths to the shadows, praying our fragile souls endure the coming storm. Imperator gloria in excelsis terra. If you survive this grim archive, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this record to prepare your fellow humans for the inevitable dark awakening ahead.